We were talking about budgeting and assumptions earlier, and one of the things that I think is absolutely important when I build a budget is to look at how to structure that budget. For me, it's what I call the 5 critical uses. And those uses of that budget break down into people, awareness, preference, enablement, like sales enablement, and then what I call optimizing the engine. So when we talk about people, one of the things that I want to understand as I build up the team is, what do I insource and what do I outsource? This is absolutely important, because one of the things you want to do is, what's strategically important to you and your organization that you can drive more value with by having in-house. You want to do that. Versus, what is it that you can depend on another partner for, or an outside vendor, that they can do better and more efficiently than you could do? So case in point, when I'm thinking about subject matter expertise, I want that in-house. I absolutely want that with us. I don't ever want to outsource that. What I will outsource, though, is the production of certain materials, like a podcast or broadcast media or something like that. There's other partners that can do that much more efficiently and effectively than I can. What I do want to have in-house, I want to make sure that I turn the entire workforce, all of my coworkers, as best as possible into social sellers for us. I want them active on social media and promoting the work that we're doing and promoting our brand. That helps that next point, which is creating awareness. When you think about creating awareness, people aren't going to buy from you if they don't know you exist. This is critical. So one of the best ways that you can do that is, when we were talking about earlier about podcasts and broadcast media and things like that, bring guests in, bring other outside subject matter experts in that will essentially co-market with you, and they'll talk about what they're great at. When they leave, right, they're going to promote what you developed and what you created, and that's going to co-brand with you and essentially elevate your brand and spread your message into other channels. It's a great way to go. But once you've generated awareness, it's still not good enough, right? Obviously, you've got to have your customers prefer you over somebody else. So what sort of tools do you want to use to create that preference? This is where, and I'm thinking about the buyer's journey, which we haven't really talked about, right? When they go from having a trigger event saying, I need something, to discovery, which is, what's out there, how do I solve my problem? Preference really comes into this next phase, which is evaluating and decision making. This is where we want to differentiate our value versus the next best alternative. And we talked about that already. So if you haven't seen that, go back and take a look at it. And if you have, then hang with me. So here's the next piece that we want to do after we've created that preference, right, where we've engaged that customer in their evaluation period. We want to achieve enablement. And achieving enablement is what is really about sales enablement. It's giving the selling team the tools they need to convert that lead or opportunity into a win. So you want to make sure they have the right tools and they're armed correctly to meet the customer with their primary concerns and address those head on. You want to create an unfair advantage for you versus the competition, or do nothing. It's absolutely important that you arm your sales team with the right questions to ask to understand what type of persona they're dealing with and what the needs are of that persona and what's going to motivate them to take action. The next part after sales enablement is what I like to call optimizing the engine, maybe called marketing operations in a lot of organizations. But the reason I like to call it optimizing the engine is because the ultimate job of marketing is to create leads for the sales team. And along those lines, we want to do that as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So you've got to balance those two. This is where your marketing operations leader or team, or if it's somebody else sharing a hat, if you've got a small team, this is where you're looking to them to be able to find ways to produce leads at a lower cost while still delighting the customer at every stage of their journey. That's the important part with marketing operations or optimizing the engine. So in closing, the 5 things to remember when you're building your budget: people, awareness, preference, enablement, and optimization.